What is going on, q50 family? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have my boy Jay's Infiniti Q50. Not sure what year it is, but it's a Q50. So the point of today's video is obviously, as you guys can read on the description, is we are building a turbo kit for it. So huge shout out to Comp Turbo. I'm not sure if it shows the size on here, but either way, I'll talk about it more later. So we're going to be using a Comp Turbo, which the reason that we're going with this turbo is because apparently on this car it's very hard to get an oil drain line. Not sure if you guys can see on there, but that oil pan is fucking slim. I can't get in there because of sway bar. I'm trying to get you guys a good look. There you go. You could barely put a bung on there. And if you do, all the oil and everything is sitting up here. So what all that's gonna do is basically gonna clog your drain. So all the oil sits at the bottom there, plus on top of the motor. So it's a weird design. I'm not sure why, but point is we can't get an oil drain plug on there. We can probably get it somewhere else on the block. We don't want to deal with all that. So we teamed up with Comp Turbo. Again, huge shout out to Comp Turbo sponsoring the build. We are going to be going with the oilless setup. So it's a lot less headache. No oil drain, no oil feed, no water to the turbo, none of that. It's just put that turbo on the manifold and that's it, ready to go. So we already had the front bumper off of the car. I'll give you guys a better view once we're completed with the car, but I'm not sure what year it is again. I believe it's like an 18 or something, but we have it in the air. And the reason is we are starting the turbo kit. So he has his catless downpipes already on here. And then this went to the exhaust. Now he already has all that removed, sold it to pay for the new build. So we kept the catless downpipes. The reason is I need this flange. So I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but I need this flange. It's a 3-bolt and it's a weird triangle. I can't find it anywhere. So what we're doing with it is we're chopping off this pipe because it's no longer needed. The O2 sensors are going to be relocated, so those stay. But the pipe basically is going to get chopped off, which I've already done over here. Put a little bit more light for you guys. So there's the 3-bolt flange. I chopped it off and we welded a 2.5-inch V-band on there so that we can easily remove the turbo kit and install it. This triangle flange from the factory company that made it, they are warped. So I took a very long time on the belt sand and everything, ensuring that it's flat. The reason you want to make sure it's completely flat is because you don't want any leaks on your exhaust part, because this is now what's going to feed your turbo. So any leaks or anything, if you guys can see, he does have some RTV on here. I'm assuming he had leaks in the past. So put those onto the belt sander, make sure they're completely flush. We're still going to put RTV as a backup, but that's the plan. So they're getting trimmed up. V-bands welded. As of right now, I'm just going to focus on this side. I don't have any more V-bands to continue this one. They're on order, but the most important part is this side. Reason is because my turbo kit I'm designing to come out on the passenger side. So we can do the driver's side. It's a little harder to do, damn near close to impossible, because you have the steering rack over here. But on the driver's side, we have a lot more real estate on here. So the design that I want to go with is we're coming off, right? So we have our headers, we're coming off of it. We're gonna 90 back over here, and I'm gonna put another V-band on here so we can remove the top part of the turbo kit. And then my turbo kit's gonna 90 up over here. So my headers give me enough room up here to fit my piping. We are using 2.5-inch again. So I'm gonna have a V-band section like somewhere right here, and it's gonna 90 up, and that's gonna allow me to go into the turbo placement inside the engine bay and give me some nice room. I can remove that single pipe that feeds my turbo from on top of the engine bay, so I'm not trying to squeeze the whole entire turbo kit on such a small area. So it's basically going to be basically like a 2-piece manifold. So from header from driver's side to passenger side, that's all going to be one solid pipe. Both will have V-bands to go onto the header, so you can still remove it, and you don't have to worry about those 3 bolts with gaskets and all that bullshit. So all we're gonna do is seal it once and never have to seal it again. You don't have to remove it, replace gaskets, none of the bullshit. So that's the beauty about V-bands. But we are gonna continue this side of the pipe. I have my 90 over here on the weld table. So I have my 90 over here. I'm gonna show you guys what it's gonna look like once it's mounted up. So we're gonna come back over. I'm gonna fit my 90 in. I already have it marked on where I want it. So that's how she's gonna look. I'm gonna come over and my V-band is going to sit right there. And then from the V-band, I'm gonna be able to 90 up and then go into the engine bay. So let's go ahead and remove this bad boy, get it welded, and continue fitting up. Alrighty boys, so we got our 90 welded up and we have our second V-band installed as well. So let's go up to the car. Let's get her test fitted so you guys can see. So that's what she's looking like. So she comes off the headers onto another V-band, 90's over, and that's what's gonna go up to my turbo. Let me see if I can get you guys a view here. Here we go. So plenty of access here to get onto that V-band so you can remove the top portion of the turbo kit. So it's beautiful. 3-bolt flange is already tightened down, RTV'd. So now I just gotta wait for my V-bands to come in so I can clamp this down and I can go up on top and start working on the top piece. So I've already started working on the 90 so I can clear those headers like we talked about. So we're gonna go straight and then 90 up. So I'm gonna swap over these V-bands so I can get that started. All right, you guys, so we have our V-band placed. We have our other section up there, so now we can drop the car, go on top, and start working on our top piece. All right, Frenchy Fat family, so check this bad boy out. So today is the day that the turbo will be getting placed into the engine bay. So let's put this bad boy down for a quick second. Ooh. Bring you guys in. So we have our up pipe coming up already. Now it was a bitch to fit that in. And the only way I can get it in is if we remove that bottom cross member, whatever you want to call that. So it doesn't really support anything. It's basically just a brace, and it does hold your lower tie rods or lower control arms, but it doesn't support the motor. So you're able to remove that safely. So that's the only way we were able to fit that pipe in. So I have you guys on top of the engine bay now so we can see what the next process is. First of all, these 2 wires are in our way. So these bad boys got to go. So all these do is they go to your positive terminal on the battery. We're gonna disconnect those, pull this wire up, and we're gonna pull it up on top of the engine. We'll worry about that later. This one is plenty long so we can run on the back side of the motor. Unfortunately, the other short one goes to the back of the alternator. So we are gonna have to remove that and make a custom one. We're gonna make one much longer to wrap around the whole engine. But our pipe, we put a V-band on there because we're not able to fit the entire pipe through that little section. So we're gonna do another piece with a V-band. So again, make sure that your V-bands and everything are being welded properly. That way you have no leaks. So we're gonna put another V-band on there. Section is gonna come up and it's gonna have a 90 to come up to feed to our turbo flange, which is gonna be a T3. So let's go to the bottom and you guys can see what we did down there. Alrighty boys, so again we have our pipe coming off our header, wrapping around with the 90. We have our V-band section that goes straight up. Now like I said, I couldn't get that pipe to fit in there because of the 90 and everything. It was so tight. So what I do is I remove that cross brace. That cross brace gets mounted down to these, which basically supports your lower control arm, and then it also bolts down here with these 2 bolts. There's 4 bolts here, but mainly those 2. So it doesn't really support much. So you're able to actually remove that bracket. It'll give you some room down here. So we have our 90 going up. We have our V-bands. So now we can start working on our top. So let's bring it back down. All right, you guys, so we have our wire harness and everything out the way for now. This one we still got to remove, but it's away so we can keep fabricating. Now the only other thing that's in our way is our power steering hose. So that has a metal hose that comes out and 90's out. What we're gonna do is we're gonna just bend that down slightly just to buy us some room. So I'm gonna get myself a piece of 2x4, something pretty soft. I'm gonna put it right on the pipe and I'm just gonna give it a couple love taps to go down. Just like that. So you don't need much. It's just that it sticks up like a 45 straight up. So now it's a nice straight 90. So that buys us some room to bring our pipe over. Alrighty boys, check it out. So we got our V-band. We have our section coming over. We have our 90. Now we're just cutting up another piece, a 2.5-inch extension, so that we can bring our turbo. And the way that we're gonna mount this turbo is we're gonna stick it out the hood just about halfway. We're gonna try to attempt to. So that way we can get some nice optimal airflow. So we got that piece up on the bandsaw now. Once that's cut, we'll get that marked up and everything. We already have our flange onto the turbo. So let's keep it going. Alrighty boys, so we have our pipe welded up, V-band is tightened down, and turbo is placed. So we have plenty of room, put our hood dump, fuel lines, everything can clear, everything real nice. So now I'm trying to decide on how I'm gonna leave the turbo, because the turbo is gonna stick out the hood about halfway. I have a seat so you guys can see here, get a good view. So that's roughly how much the turbo is gonna stick out. You guys can see the body line. But I'm debating on whether leaving the comp facing on top, or I'm gonna clock the housing so my outlet is over here somewhere. So it's basically facing like that. You won't be able to see the comp. So I'm gonna talk to Jason, see what he wants to do. But that's how she's looking so far. Depending on what he says, you'll see the next step. So let's keep it going. So now we got to figure out where we're going to put our wastegate. So our wastegate, I'm thinking about putting right there. So that way our 90 comes up, but also our 90 can also feed our wastegate. So it will give priority to the wastegate, so you won't have boost creep or anything, and less duty cycle on the wastegate as well. You want exhaust flow to go towards the wastegate. You never want it to go past the wastegate, if that makes sense. So let's say I have a straight pipe, right? A piece of straight pipe. If I just put the wastegate at a 90, so basically like if it was a T, the wastegate has to open up a lot more of a duty cycle in order for it to actually work properly. Basically it makes it inefficient. But if I have a straight pipe and I put my wastegate at like a 45 towards it, the exhaust flow, like it wants to go towards the wastegate, if that makes sense. That allows the wastegate to work less harder, less duty cycles on your max solenoid, and a lot easier on the boost control. So other than that, let's figure out where we're gonna put our gate and figure out how we're gonna clock this housing. But that's how she's looking so far. Hi Daddy, you like it? Like turbos? How they go? All right, say subscribe to Frenchy Fab.
Subscribe to Frenchy Fab.
My nigga. Alrighty guys, so with our turbo and everything hanging, we need to put a little support bracket. So I have a tab that I made here out of steel, and I also made another tab of steel there on the turbo, as you guys can see. So I have a stainless bar, hopefully you guys can see that. That's gonna get welded on there. And that's gonna help support the weight of the turbo because she's a little flimsy. So let's get this bad boy welded so we can get our wastegate in place. Pulling in overtime on the turbo build. And I wanna know who the fuck drink my Red Bull. Bunch of bitch ass niggas. But I guess I'm the only one here, so I guess it was me. Fuck! Alright guys, wastegate is in place. We have all of our clearances. The bracket to support the turbo is on. And this bitch is fucking solid, she ain't moving. So, our next step is close the hood. She'll stick out just enough. So I placed some tape on top and I did a rough sketch with the Sharpie. The way I got the Sharpie marks is I just eyeballed where the turbo sits. So I'm not gonna cut the entire thing. I'm gonna cut like inside this radius and I'll do my fine cuts after once I start fitting the turbo. So let's start getting that cut. All right, you guys, so we have our first window cut out. So as you guys can see, now we have to make our fine adjustments. So I'll be able to adjust my Sharpie marks and we'll get our perfect turbo cut. Alrighty, you guys, so we have the cutout for the turbo. Now I didn't record that process because I shit you not, that took me 5 hours to get that thing cut. And the only reason it took so long is because I'm like OCD with it, if you want to call it. So I have to make sure that it's perfect, because if there's like any unevenness or any weird gaps or whatever, it destroys my mind and I won't be able to sleep. So that took me 5 hours just to cut that, to make sure it's absolutely perfect. And as you guys seen, I think it is. So comment down below if I did a good job with that. But now I'll record the next process. So if we go at the bottom, we have our hood dump made. So we have our 3-inch teardrop, real low profile. That way it doesn't stick out too crazy past the turbo. We want to keep it nice and clean. So that's a nice picture right there. Nice thumbnail. So anyways, we're getting ready to cut out the hood dump. So I'll put you guys on time lapse for that. So that shouldn't take me too long, maybe like an hour. So put you guys on time lapse. Let's get this bad boy cut, fitted. Just like that, fellas, hood dump is complete. You guys just seen her close, and that's what she looks like at the bottom. So now we're gonna be working on installing the intercooler. Now the only way to get this intercooler to fit is we had to remove this center bracing, which supports your center latch. It's not your lock, because those two are your locks, and those are plenty supported. So it's only gonna support the center where the latch goes onto. So it is gonna make it a little flimsy. Hopefully nothing crazy. If it is, then we'll have to add some other type of support, maybe stiffen this up a little bit. But that's the only way we're gonna get the intercooler to fit without deleting this, which we don't wanna do. So we're gonna head it, and we're probably gonna chop it up like right here, make it nice and level. And at the bottom there, as you guys can see, we'll chop that up and we'll make that nice and flush. Now give us plenty of room inside here for our intercooler. Now this intercooler is 3 3/4 inch thick. And this distance from here is not much. I'm gonna tape measure for you guys. Fuck. So it's roughly 3 inches, give or take. I tried to heat this up with a heat gun and get it really, really hot. As you guys can see, it's melting, but it's not budging because this is like fiber reinforced plastic. So it's not gonna wanna bend and mold to where you want it to. So unfortunately we have no choice but to cut it. So let's get that chopped up. Let's get this bad boy fitted in. All right, you guys. So in order to get the intercooler mounted on, we had to remove the front metal bumper. So there's 4 bolts, 2 bolts and 2 nuts on each side that hold it in. So we removed that. We already marked it on where we wanted it. So on the top of the bumper support, we lined it up with the welds. And then we put some self-tappers on the side of the brackets. Real nice and solid. So now we're gonna get this back installed. Check it out, fellas. So we got the intercooler bolted down, bumper's back installed, and she's fucking cleared. So now we can finally start working on some intercooler piping. So we got a little 45 here. I got it trimmed up to where I want it to sit. So she'll line up there on the throttle body. Give me some clearance onto the turbo. And all this hot stuff part, all the hot stuff part, he's gonna get Cerakoted. So like the turbo housing, the piping, wastegate, everything's gonna get Cerakoted. So it will at least protect from heat soaking this pipe. Try to put it away as far as possible, but you know, with the hood and everything, heat likes to stay trapped around this area. So we're gonna try to protect it as much as possible. Now, as you guys can see, the only thing my way is this fucking power steering reservoir. So we are gonna try to move that a little bit lower if the space allows us, which I'm pretty sure we have plenty of room to at least move it down a little bit. I don't need nothing much, or we'll probably end up deleting it and moving it somewhere else. I'm not sure. So let's remove that, let's lower it out the way, and then we'll work on that last. After all of our piping is done, we can figure out where to put it. So let me get some pipes made up. Alrighty boys, so I've been working hard at it. Got some pipes made. Check this bitch out. So like I said earlier, we have our 45 going to our throttle body. We got our bends coming down. We have our 90. And then from our turbo, we also got the piping and everything made for that as well. So you guys can see the clearance and everything that we have down there. Charge pipes away from the turbo. So it gives us enough room over there to put our Cerakote and everything, and then put a heat blanket on top, turbo blanket. So as far as coming from the intercooler, so we have our 90. So this is a 3-inch inlet to the intercooler, and then dual 2.5-inch outlets. So we have a 3-inch to 2.5-inch 90 elbow. So we have that coming straight down, and then intercooler wrapped around the bumper, coming to the side. We have one of our outlets coming from our intercooler to feed the left side throttle body. And then that one's gonna feed the other throttle body, obviously. They wrap around here onto the side. And then I have the wheel turn so you guys can see the clearance that we have on there. So we have plenty of clearance. He can put a bigger tire if he wants to, just has to be careful, or go with a smaller rim. So not sure what size these are. Oh, these are 19s. So he can probably drop down to like a 17 or an 18 as long as it clears the brakes. But intercooler piping wraps up. So let me turn the wheel back over so you guys can see the inside. All right, you guys, so that we have a better look of what we're looking like. So we have dual silicone couplers on the inside there, just because it's so tight and everything on here, there's no way you're gonna fit one solid pipe through there. So we gotta add a relief somewhere, a separation point. So we have our dual silicone couplers there. That one wraps up to the throttle body, and then that one goes to the turbo. So that's how our piping goes. And then at the end of the video, you know, I'll do a nice montage of everything so you guys can see the entire build nice and clean once the pipes are polished up and everything real nicely. Now, I apologize, I didn't get, you know, the footage of me building the piping and everything. It's a very long process and very stressful. You make a cut, it's too short, still too long, you know, all that. But now we gotta do our driver's side charge pipes. So this one's complete. We're gonna try to mock it up so it's identical as best as possible. You know, nobody's perfect, but now we're gonna make a 90 to go down there. We're gonna try to sneak between our windshield wiper fluid so that we can make a nice connection on there. Now, the only thing that's gonna bother me is this piece right here because it sticks out so far. So for me to get a straight section, it's gonna hit. So I'm gonna try to finesse it so it can come over somehow with an elbow, and then we'll be able to come up with our 90 and make our connection. Once our piping is done, then we'll be able to add our both our IAT sensors, and then we'll be able to put our blow-off valves somewhere. So on this side, it's gonna be a little harder to fit a blow-off valve just because of the room. And if you guys notice, I'm still missing the wastegate dump, which I'll get that done. The wastegate dump will come up somewhere around here and match the teardrop of the turbo. So my blow-off valve, I'm gonna try to finesse it and see if I can fit it here, hopefully. And then the IAT sensor will go underneath here on the side somewhere. And I'm just hoping that the blow-off valve clears the hood. If not, I'll just have to do a little bit more trimming on this stuff. And then if I can get it over here as well, my AC lines and everything's in the way. This AC line, we're gonna have to do a little bit of hammering and finessing it. If you guys can see, it's resting right onto the charge pipe. And with the motor rocking back and forth, she will rub a hole in the future, either on the AC line or on the charge pipe. So we don't want that. So basically, this hose is a little bit loose. So it's gonna be a little harder for me to bend it. But if I remove my piping, you'll see how a 90 is over here and it has like this weird kickoff, like this 45. So basically what I wanna try to do is maybe support this here real stiff and then get this pipe to bend more that way. So it gives me my leeway for this side for my charge pipes. So we're gonna try to figure that out so that we can keep a nice clean look. And then this line, we do have it kicking up and everything, so I'll be able to finesse this line to go a little bit closer this way, no problem, just to buy some room for our blow-off valve. So that one's not an issue, it's that one. But other than that, we'll get that charge pipe cleaned up. It has a different finish, so this one's more of a brushed finish. I don't like it. While my other pipes, I have more like of a polished look. Still brushed, it's not chrome, like a super shiny charge pipe. Reason I don't like that is because it gets scratched really easily and you can tell when it's scratched up. So what I do is I just go with some Scotch-Brite and clean it up. This one's gonna need a little bit more sanding and everything to get it to match that finish. As far as charge pipes, for everyone wondering what I use, so the best thing to use is like go on eBay. Let me talk to you guys. I go on eBay and I buy like a big bulk of like charge pipes. So usually you'll know them by like universal charge pipes where they come with like all the silicone couplers and everything. I buy that kit with just the pipes. Sometimes the silicone couplers, because they do help out. As you guys can see, we used a couple of couplers. But those universal kits are very nice, especially for fabricators, because they come with all the elbows. So they come with 45 straight sections, 90s. They come with 180s too, so you can cut that in half and have two 90s. For fabricators, that's like Legos. So we use them, we cut them, we chop them up and everything. If you can't weld, they still work for you as well. You just need to put some beads on whatever you're gonna cut, and then you're gonna use a shit ton of couplers, not gonna lie. But as you guys can see, we just weld everything together. So that's why I love those kits. And they're fairly cheap. You can get a whole kit with couplers and everything probably for like less than 100 bucks. So that's all my intercooler piping that I use, if you guys are wondering. As far as my stainless steel and everything, that's a different story. But that's how she's coming along so far. Looking very nice and clean. So let's stop talking shit and let's get my driver's side charge pipe made up. Fuck! Alright, Frenchy Fat family, we are finally complete with the build. So I had to speed it up a little bit. I didn't get to get a lot of recording of welding or anything just because we were trying to meet a deadline. He still has to finish all the fuel system and everything. We have our dyno day coming so he can tune for it as well. And we have a couple of meets that he's trying to make it to. So we had to speed it up, but the car is finally finished. So we have the hood cracked a little bit, but we have our turbo sticking out. We have our 3-inch hood dump for the turbo with the Frenchy Fab logo. We also created our wastegate dump. So that's 1 3/4. The hood dump for the turbo is 3-inch. So let's open up the hood. So this is what we ended up with. So we have our wastegate, our turbo smart, I believe that's comp 40. We have the dump tube coming up for it. Everything's matching real nice. The teardrops. And then for our charge pipes, so we have 2.5-inch piping going to our throttle body. Everything is beaded at the ends. We have our Pulsar 50mm blow-off valves. We have our MAF sensor, mass airflow. We have symmetrical piping, so both should be identical. So over here as well, we have our 50mm blow-off valve with our MAP sensor. And then our piping comes down on the wheel well, clears the tire real nicely. Then we have our intercooler installed. So our piping goes between our windshield wiper fluid reservoir on this side, comes up to that throttle body. And then our intercooler on this side. So our top is gonna be our feed. So that's my hot side. So that means that my turbo is gonna be flowing hot air to the top of the intercooler. The air is gonna cool down the fins, and then it's gonna allow my cold air to escape on both sides to feed my throttle bodies. So on this side, I have this side feeding this throttle body. So the way this piping comes over, tucked up real nicely. Everything is above from the radiator support, so it can't scrape. So there is the one that goes to my turbo. That one comes down, loops up, feeds the top of the intercooler, and then outlet comes up, another coupler, and that's what 90s over to my throttle body. So now the only thing that I had to do to make this to work is, first of all, power steering reservoir sat in this location. So that's gonna get removed and tucked up. So in the future, just like I said, we are on a deadline. So we're gonna be fabricating like a nice little, sort of like a catch can type, but for the power steering reservoir, we're gonna be doing something real nice so it complements all of the fabrication. Also, your alternator power cable, which I'm not sure if you can see this wire loom right here, this nice fresh one. I made that new cable. So that one just comes over here, and that's gonna be your new cable. I had to extend it by a foot just because the wire original harness It's not meant to go around the whole turbo kit, so it's nice and short and it goes up through here. Fortunately, my piping and everything was in the way, so what we did was we removed it. We completely made a new one a foot longer, so now it gave us some more clearance. So as you guys can see, it's away from all the piping. But over here for our turbo, I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but we have our support bracket to hold up this beautiful turbo. You can't rely on just the piping. So that's most of it for the top. Let's go to the bottom so you guys can see the piping. All right, you guys, we're at the bottom of the car now. So here we have our driver's side header. So like I said before, what we did was we took the factory, well, not the factory, the aftermarket test pipes, the catless down pipes. We chopped it off and then I welded a 90. I put a nice little stainless bellow here so it allows for flex between both of the headers. It's gonna move, it's all stainless. So we have our merge pipe coming through the center. Now on the bottom subframe, we did have to notch out a little bit of it just to clear our piping and to keep everything tucked up real nice. We have some clearance away from the trans housing, the bell housing, so that's clear over there. So over here, we have it wide up. So before I get to that Y, here we have our passenger side. So it comes over, 180s back over. That's also on a V-band. So like I said, the factory flange got cut off, V-band welded. So when we go to remove this system, all you have to do is remove that V-band there, that V-band there, and this one, I didn't put a V-band, I just put the 3 bolts. It's a lot easier. So now we have both of our exhausts. As you guys can see, they come over and they Y into one right here. And then they go into that piping up top. So that's what leads up to my turbo. So both these exhausts into a Y, V-band, up to my turbo. So I'll show you guys the clearance. Everything's real nice and smooth. Nothing sticks below the subframe or the chassis. So if you were to rub like on a speed bump or some shit, the first thing you're gonna rub is this before you even touch the turbo kit. So everything's nice and clear. So over here, get you guys a better look of the intercooler. And then he has his oil cooler here in the way. I highly suggest that he got rid of this and probably relocate it up here. Maybe put a long rad instead of this. That way you don't block the airflow to your intercooler and get premature heat soak. But here's our pipe work coming out. Everything's tucked up real nice and tight against the wall, so when he turns the tires, it won't hit. Over here, going through, up and over. So that is it for this build, Frenchy Fab family. Appreciate you guys for sticking around. Comment down below what you guys think. And a lot of people have been asking, yes, this is all-wheel drive. So I know it's kind of rare-ish to see these being big turboed because of the all-wheel drive system is very, very tight. But as you guys can see, it is possible. It's a pain in the ass, but it's possible. But in a few weeks from now, I'll be doing another update video on first startup and dyno tuning and all that stuff. So super excited to stay tuned for that. But as of right now, we finished the fab work, so Jay's gonna come pick it up, finish the fuel line system and everything, and get ready for our next videos. But comment down below what you guys think of the build. You guys came out dope. I don't know, talk to me. Other than that, I'll see you guys on the next one. Appreciate you guys for sticking around. Hit that like, subscribe button, comment down below, and I'll see y'all family on the next one. Be safe.
I've been running. been running all my life. I take the crown and pay it back. Yeah, I've been running all my life. Looking for love that I can't find. 'Cause I've been running all my life. Cause I've been running all my Cause I've been running